How's it going, everyone? This is Snoplar once again with Team Legends, and today we're going to be taking a look at the last of the decks for the Chainsaw Man set, and that's going to be the purple REZE Bomb Devil deck. This is a deck that I do really think is going to be a new kind of meta threat in a way. We've yet to see it in a regional or anything, as we have not had a regional since Chainsaw Man's been legal, but I think this is the deck that's being eyed by a lot of the community as a very strong meta potential threat. I do believe this deck is pretty strong too. It has a whole bunch of removal, and I really think that that can be pretty solid into our meta. We've always been kind of more of a rush meta, but I do think maybe it'll finally be time to see a new kind of deck play in the meta. We'll see though, whenever we have next regional. But with that out of the way, we'll go ahead and jump right into the deck list. So starting things out, we have this zero-cost Denji. He's just going to be your standard, change him to resting, and you get energy generation, but he sidelines himself at the start of your main, or at the end of your main phase, start of your battle phase. Pretty standard card. In this deck, you're going to need a lot of Denjis and REZEs. It needs to kind of have both of the names in the deck, so this is just a standard zero for the deck. And then next, we also just have a very standard zero-cost REZE with a get trigger and 1500. Nothing really much to say here. Once again, the standard zeros. And then next, we have this one-cost Denji. He's going to have no trigger, but he is, when sidelined, you can either draw a card, and if he was sidelined by your ability, you can look at the top 4 cards of your deck and add up to one REZE or Denji card, place the remaining on the bottom of the deck instead. You don't have to discard for that one too, so if this card is sidelined with one of your REZEs, which are going to be the main thing of this deck that is going to be doing the sidelining, a lot of the REZEs have to sideline a character on your field to get an effect, so if you sideline this one, you can either draw a card, or you can go top 4 and try to get a Denji or REZE card with no discard. So this is a very handy piece too. It can even just be an early blocker to just get a draw off of it, and always nice to hit off of purple color, because then it would just give you another blocker that you can then block with again, draw another card. Really handy piece to have. This is honestly a really good card for the deck that I'm just always loving to see when you see a lot of these. You're going to have to pop your Denjis a lot of the times with your cards, and this is like my favorite one obviously to do when you have it. And then for our other one cost, we have this one cost REZE. She is just a standard draw discard with an active trigger and 2k. Just more filtering for the deck as always, and also more raid names, which is super handy as always to have lots of characters with the same name for the raid. I don't like when there's ones that just don't have the targets for them, so I just love that this deck does have a decent amount of REZEs in it that you can then sideline some of your REZEs too with some of your effects if you have to. And then our next card is this fake zero Denji. He's a 2-cost that becomes a 0 if you have nothing else on your board, and he is also just a draw discard with an active trigger and 2k. So pretty much the same thing as your 1-cost REZE, but he will be sometimes a 0, a lot of the times also a 2. And then like the Makima deck, we have this 3-cost Denji. He's got double energy and a get trigger. He's going to be, when played, you're going to look at the top 3 cards of your deck. You got to grab up to one character, place the remaining on the bottom in any order. If you add one, discard one. And then for this one, as with the Makima, if you add a Makima, you get a buff one by 1,000. If you add the REZE, you get to choose one with 1,500 or more on your opponent's field, and it loses 1,000. So REZE deck does have a couple of cards in it that are going to be reducing your BP. So this is a card that is very handy, that it's able to help out, give it like an extra little 1,000 on there. It can make it so maybe you can even sideline some of the smaller characters with it, because not all the cards have the 1,500 or more BP restriction on it. So this card is nice to give that first little tick onto the sidelining, maybe a 0 or a 1 cost. Super handy to also just be a searcher for the deck. Just a really nice piece to have. And then the next card we have here is this 3-cost REZE. She's going to be, when played, you get to play up to one purple REZE, Denji, or Cafe Crossroads card with 2 or less required energy and 1 AP cost from your hand set to resting on the field. So this card is nice just to be able to play an extra body out, because this deck does have to pop a decent amount of its cards to get your effects going and everything. So it does feel like if you're not playing it correctly, you can sometimes burn yourself out by popping too many cards, and you don't want to do that. You don't want to put yourself in an awkward position with your energy. So it's nice to just have a card that's able to play another card out with it for free. I remember these cards back in the day, they didn't always have triggers, and they weren't usually regarded as much in the decks. I just remember like the JJK ones had a lot of the cards that were like that. You just play a free card from your hand. But it is nice that we're now getting these cards that can be played a bit more, because I always thought that was a bit more of a cooler design to be able to play an extra card with it. And then next we have the color of the deck, which is this 3-cost REZE. She has double energy, and she's going to be, when played, you can sideline one other character on your field, and if you do, you choose one of the following. You can either draw a card and then choose something on your field, and it gets 2,000, or you can just draw 2 cards. This card reminds me a lot of that 3-cost Oscar that we have in Yellow Ava, which is just kind of the same thing. You can either draw a card and flip one active, or just draw 2. Those cards are always super nice, and I think that they just the ability to have a double energy that can maybe clear your energy line a little bit and also then offer you some advantage with it. It's super nice in Yellow Ava, and this card is also super nice in this deck. And then next we have our first of the raids, which is this 4-cost REZE. She is going to be, when played, you can draw a card and then choose one of the following. You can either choose a character on your opponent's front line and it loses 1,000 until the end of the turn. As I said before, it's worth noting this one does not need to have the BP restriction of it needs to be 15 or higher. So if your opponent has like a 1,500 on their board, like maybe say Shadow Army or something, you can use the first with the Denji effect to make something lose 1,000, and then you can use this card and make it lose another 1,000 and sideline the card. It's nice for them being able to get rid of the small cards on the board. Or you can also use the other effect, which is if it's your turn and a Denji on your field has been sidelined, you can switch an AP active, but it is a hard once per turn on that effect. So the ability to also be able to extend further with this card combos very well with some of these cards in the deck. One of the cards that I'll talk about a little bit later has a really good kind of combo with this deck that could just keep offering you more and more advantage and just more and more free plays, which is super nice. This deck does have a lot of free cards that can get out with some of their combos, but I think you really do need to know what you're doing with the deck in order to fully play it to the optimal ability. And then our next card is this 5/2 Bomb Devil. This is going to be also treated as REZE. During your turn, if Denji on your field has been sidelined, it also will get damage too. And then when played, if REZE is your only card with 4,000 or more on your field or in your sideline, so you can't play the Makima cards with this, you can sideline another character on your field, and if you do, switch it active and an AP active, and it gets 1,000 and impact. So it's going to be a 5k impact damage 2 in most instances with an AP active, which then you can raid on top of the 4/1. And then since you've sidelined a Denji, presumably you'll be able to flip another card active, another AP active for more plays. This card is just the go. I started with it at 2, and I eventually just bumped it to 4. I honestly just think this card is the real ace of the deck. It's what really kind of offers like the most pressure for the deck with the damage 2 constantly. This card is insane, honestly. This is just like the card that I think is the real goat of the deck and the real boss of the deck. Not the 5/1 raid that we'll soon talk about, it's this one. And then our last card is going to be this 5/1 Bomb Devil raid, also treated as REZE. And it's going to be, when played, you choose one of the following. You can either choose a character on your opponent's front line, it loses 1,000 until the end of the turn. Or if it's your turn and REZE is the only card with 4,000, again, meaning you can't play Makimas in this deck, or if you can, they cannot be on the field or on your sideline. Then you can sideline a character on your field. If you do, choose a character on your opponent's front line, and it loses 5,000 BP until the end of the turn, which is very good. It's just essentially another special in the deck, which is super handy. This deck just has a lot of removal. It's just able to just kind of wreak havoc on your opponent's board, and I think especially in the hands of a really good pilot, you can kind of just wipe so much of their board and put them in a position where it's really hard to come back when you sideline like 2 to 3 cards a turn. Super handy. And then it also has an ability that activate main. You can just derate it, take the card out from underneath it, and give it impact until the end of the turn. So it's nice to always be able to just have the looming threat of an impact. It can maybe just make your opponent make some different blocking decisions, or you can just use it right away and just deal that damage. Super helpful to have. And then next we have our standard AP flip card. Just standard stuff, you know, always. And then as always, we have our 4-cost special, which is just boom, 3k, sideline a character, 5k if you have REZE. So standard stuff for a special. Just more specials in this deck, which is handy already when you have the 5/1 raid and all the other forms of removal. This deck is going to just wreak havoc on them. So this is the deck list that we're going to be going into today with the matchups. We're going to hope for the best. This deck is very tricky, so you're going to have to forgive me if some of these combos do not look correct, or maybe you would do them different. I'm going to do the best that I can. I've been playing this deck a decent amount, but I do feel like every time I play it, I learn something new. It's a very tricky deck to play, but we're going to hope for the best today with our randomly 3-generated matchups. And I actually realized here, too, that I made a little mistake on the deck list here, but at the last minute I did change for 4 of this one. This is again a choice that I would probably recommend doing, would be putting in 4 of this one. 3 to 4 is probably what I would shoot for, but 4 is just what I found to feel the best. This card is just insane. It feels like such a big powerhouse whenever it hits the board. So yeah, it was a last minute change, but I did swap this one in as a 4 of, as opposed to then putting out one of this 1-cost REZE. You already play a lot of 1s in this deck, so you're not going to really miss one more. And I honestly think that you want a little bit more on the high end for this deck too. All right, and we'll go ahead and get right into it. Alright, so here we go into the first of our 3 randomly generated matchups. We're going to see, I guess, like what kind of stuff it's going to be today. Maybe it's a little bit tougher ones, and it's going to be Purple Chainsaw Makima to start off. Okay, so this is a deck that I have actually played a decent amount of times. I've played this matchup, testing all the Chainsaw Man decks. I feel like this one does tend to go a lot more in REZE's favor, just because I feel like she does have a lot more of the removal, which can kind of be crucial against the Makima, and I do think you can just kind of put up those boards sometimes that can overwhelm the Makimas. A lot of targeted removal will definitely make it easier to beat the Makima deck. It has a couple of pieces that I said in the Makima deck review that it kind of just needs those pieces to stick on the board, and with the hyper removal that REZE has, I think this should probably be a pretty solid matchup for us, but we'll go ahead and see. So our opponent's going to start with a fake Zero Denji to draw discard. We will then follow it up with a fake Zero Denji of our own, and we're going to draw discard. Alright, and we're going to be discarding an AP flipper here, and then playing a 0-1 Denji. This is going to be the one that changes to resting to get energy generation. Alright, we're going to see our opponent then go ahead and move up the Denji here for an early swing, play 0 Makima plus a 1 Makima to look at the top 3, send up to 1 to the sideline, and the rest go in any order on the top, swing for 1. It's going to hit a draw trigger, and they'll pass back to us. Alrighty. And we're just going to take a second to think about this one. We're going to go ahead and use the Denji effect to give energy generation, play the 3-1 REZE to then bring out a Denji with it, use an AP flipper, and then we're going to go for a very aggro 5-2 Bomb Devil. This is going to then pop the Denji and then flip itself active to give it impact and damage 2. And then we are going to go with another 3-1 REZE to play a 1-1 REZE to draw discard. We'll discard the Denji, swing for damage 2. Our opponent will take that. It's going to be an active trigger in a final, and they're going to pass back to us then. Alright, the 5-2 on the second turn is an incredibly aggro move, but honestly it seemed to pay off well. I don't think that we're really hurting for the energy here. I think that ended up working out in our favor. Our opponent's going to go ahead and play a couple of Denjis here. The 3-1 Denji to then go top 3 for a character. Going to grab a Makima, and with the Makima grab, now you get a buff 1 by 1,000 on your board. And next we are going to then see a 5-1 Makima raid. So this is going to be the one that draws a card and then makes the next event that you use from your hand free, as long as it's not a special or final, and then it turns everything else except for like all the characters except for Makima into your events now. And we're just going to see a 2-1 Denji come down here then for a draw discard and swing for the 4,000. We will take that and hit a get trigger Denji, and they're going to pass back to us. Alright, so now we're going to move up the 3-1 REZE here, play the 3-1 Denji. We're going to go to the top 3, try to find a REZE. We found a Bomb Devil, so we're going to be able to add that at discard 1. And then we're going to go ahead and play the 5-2 Bomb Devil, pop the Denji, use the Bomb Devil to flip itself active then, get impact damage 2. The other one also will then get damage 2 since Denji was sidelined, plus the Denji effect that was sidelined to go top 4 for a REZE or Denji. And then we get an AP active with the 5-2 after it sidelines 1. We're going to play the REZE, draw a card and use the effect that since a Denji was sidelined, we get to flip an AP active, which we will then be using that final AP for thinking for a second, and then we're going to just go ahead and raid another 4-1 REZE. Her effect to give the AP active is a hard once per turn, so we're just going to use the effect to give 1 minus 1,000. We'll give it to the Makima. Swing for a damage 2. Swing for a damage 2 with impact. It's going to hit a draw trigger and I think it might have been an active trigger. We're going to go ahead and swing 4. They're going to block with that one, and then swing for another 4. And this one is going to also be taken too. That's going to be a final. So then we're going to go ahead and pass back to our opponent here. It's feeling pretty solid right now. When the Bomb Devils, the 5-2 one, come out in multiples, it can just feel very oppressive if you're getting your damage 2s every turn. We're going to see your opponent play the 4-1 Makima on the back row, raid another 4-1 Makima. This is going to be the one that can cycle your event cards back from the sideline. They're going to grab a movie date from the sideline back to the hand. And then going to go ahead and play the movie date to use the draw 2 discard 1. You're going to be discarding a 1-1 Makima. And swing for 4,000. We'll take that. It's a get trigger. We'll swing to the other one. We'll block, and just going to pass back to us. Alright, so this is going to be looking pretty solid right here. We have our damage 2s, and we're going to probably be able to close out on this one. 3-1 Denji to search the raid Bomb Devil. We'll discard 1 then. We will then go ahead and raid a Bomb Devil. Use the effect to pop the 2-1 Denji to be able to get rid of the 5-cost Makima raid. And then our Bomb Devils will now have the damage 2 from being able to sideline a Denji on this turn. We're going to go ahead and use an AP flip. We'll play another REZE on the back row, and then we'll raid a Bomb Devil on the back row to pop a Denji to get rid of the other 4,000. We'll go ahead and just de-raid the Bomb Devil here to give it impact. We'll swing for damage 2, and our opponent's just going to take that, seeing the writing on the wall. Alright, so that was a good first one to go into. The damage 2 on the early turns felt really solid, just at being able to have that 5-2 Bomb Devil out. Let's go ahead and see if our momentum can carry, and we're going to be going against the White Purity style deck from the Kagurabachi set. So this is one that, it's been a while since I played against this deck. I do remember this was one of the decks from Kagurabachi that was really solid out of the gate. Like, people didn't maybe discover it right away. Red was kind of the assumed best one. But the White Purity style ended up actually getting quite a few regional tops. So this is a deck that it's been a while since I've seen, but I do at least remember playing against it a couple of times. And it does some pretty cool stuff with the milling your special to be able to activate it. We're going to go ahead and see them play a just Uraha 0 here. We will then be following it up with a fake 0 Denji, followed by a 0 Denji. This is the same move we actually had in the last game. So let's see if we can keep that momentum too. We're going to have a 1-1 Chihiro come down here. I believe he is a draw and put one on the top or bottom of the deck, followed by a row. That's going to be a searcher for the deck. And looks like our opponent is going to be grabbing the 4-2 Samura card. That's the one that is able to play back cards from your sideline, or you kill a card on your board and then you get to play it back from the sideline, so you get to activate its when played effect again, or just play it active if it's a card that was just played this turn. That's a super neat card. Really big fan of that one. We're going to see a 1-1 REZE come down here to draw discard. We'll be discarding another 1-1 REZE and play a 1 Denji up to the front row. Alright. We're going to then see another 1 Chihiro come down here. He's going to be able to draw and then put one on top or bottom, put it on the top, play another one, be able to get that card back. And then I just put one back on the, play an AP flip and play the 4-2 Samura here. Uses effect to pop the Uraha and then be able to play it up to the front row. Swing with a 3000. We're going to go ahead and take the first one. We hit a special. That's going to be taking out the 4-2 Samura. We're going to go ahead and block with the other one and then use the effect since it was sidelined to draw one card. Alrighty here. So now we're going to go into this with an empty front line, but we're going to go ahead and play the 3-1 Denji here to be able to search the top for a REZE. We grab one. Discard a 0-cost Denji, and then we're going to go ahead with the 5-2 Bomb Devil. We're going to go ahead and then use that to pop the Denji, flip itself active, give it self-damage to an impact since its turn was played, and also 1000, and AP goes active. And then we're going to go ahead and raid the REZE. That's going to be able to draw a card and then flip an AP active since a Denji was sidelined this turn, which we will then be using to play a color REZE. That's going to be the one that's able to sideline something and draw 2, or draw 1 and give something 2000. We're going to opt for the draw 2 here. We're going to swing with the 5k impact damage 2. Our opponent's going to take that and hit a purple color and an active trigger. So they're going to go ahead and give the active to the row, and that's going to then be able to just play back Iori as well. So that's also then just going to kind of end the attack phase here. Pass back to our opponent here. They're going to go for an extra draw, play the Uraha color, and then we're going to see a Raid Chihiro come down here. So that's going to be able to draw 2, and I believe it's placed one back on the top of the deck. That's how you can set up your special to be milled off and then activated. It's also got some unblockable stuff. We're going to go swing with the 2k here. We'll swing with the 3k and then block both of those. 15, we'll take that for a non-trigger, and then the other one will be a final trigger. All right, so then we're going to be passing back to us. A 1-cost Denji coming down here, and then followed by another 5-2 Bomb Devil. That's going to kill the 1-cost Denji, be able to flip itself active, impact damage 2, the whole biz. Give the other one damage 2 since Denji was sidelined, and then Denji's effect to go top 4 for a REZE or Denji. We're going to use that effect to grab a 3-cost Denji to search on the next turn, or maybe this turn too, if we feel like we need something else. And then we're just going to go ahead and play a 3-cost Denji up to the front row, search for the top 3, see what we can grab. And we are going to be grabbing a 3-cost REZE. That's the one that brings out another character with it, and we'll discard a 0-cost Denji. Use the effect 2 since I searched REZE to give something minus 1000. We'll give it to the Chihiro. Swing for a damage 2. Swing damage 2 impact. Our opponent's going to take this one. That's going to be an active trigger and I believe a draw trigger, so they're going to give it to the row. Once again, just kind of ending our battle phase here because we do not have another swing that can really get in for anything. Pass back to our opponent. Our opponent's then going to go for an extra draw this turn. We're going to see one of the Chihiros be moved up. Play a Chihiro. This is the one that I believe gives something 1000 in impact, or it might just be impact. Again, it's been a while since I played these. It's 1000 in impact. Okay. And then we are going to see a Radiori come down. This is the one that makes it so you get to once again kind of sculpt the top of your deck. And it's also then going to be during your turn, if you have the proper card on the top of your deck, a 5k blocker. It's a pretty strong card. I remember where this card was kind of annoying when I was originally playing Yellow Ava a lot of the time into this. We're going to see it swing. We're going to go ahead and block. We're going to mostly block out and take one more damage for a get trigger of the 0 REZE. Alright, so we have a couple of potential damage 2s here. We just got to find a way to get rid of our Denjis here. We're going to play a 3-cost REZE to play out another 1 Denji. We're going to raid the Bomb Devil here, be able to pop the 1-cost Denji, and then sideline something else. Use the Denji's effect to be able to sideline, or to go top 4 for a Denji or REZE. We're going to grab a 0-cost REZE here, and now our Bomb Devils do have damage 2 since Denji was sidelined this turn. We're going to play a 1-cost REZE to draw discard with our last AP. We're going to de-raid the Bomb Devil to give it impact for the turn. And then we're going to go ahead and swing for a damage 2. Our opponent will block that. We'll swing for another damage 2. They'll block. We'll swing for a regular 4,000. They're going to take that one. And we'll swing for impact. And that's going to be a non-trigger as well. Alright, so we got them on 1 life. And we are on 3 currently. Our damage 2s really are just so oppressive in some of these instances. This is just honestly why. I know when the set came out, people were kind of starting to play him at 2 as a start. I just honestly think 4, it's a card that you want to see as much as you can. I think that the 5-2 is just the real ace of the deck. We're going to see a couple of cards come down here, followed by an Uraha color. And then our opponent's going to then just play a Samura color, or a Samura up on the front row. They're going to swing with a 4,000. We're going to go ahead and block that one. The Chihiro is going to swing. We're going to take that with a REZE raid. We're just going to go ahead and drop it to draw the card and get a 4K on the front line, and our opponent's going to pass back to us. Alright, so we just got to find a way to maybe get an impact on the board here to fully close it out, or just poke a hole with a special or something. We're going to use the 3-cost REZE to pop the Denji. And now since Denji has been sidelined, we get damage 2s on our Bomb Devils. We're going to use an AP flip. Play a 3-cost Denji, once again probably just trying to find a Bomb Devil here, and we found the Bomb Devil raid, so we're going to go ahead and then be able to pitch that, and then get rid of a card on the board, hopefully poking a hole. We're just going to use a special instead though. Swing for the damage 2, our opponent will block. Swing for another one. They'll block. We'll swing with the REZE. They'll just take that, and that's going to do it for this one. All right, 2-0 right now. We're going to see, I guess, if this can be the one that we go 3-0 today. I really do believe in this deck. I think this deck is really strong. It does just sometimes take a little bit to play, and what a good one to test it against is going to be the Yellow Heroine deck from the Evangelion set. This is this deck that, once again, the Yellow Ava deck, I played this one a ton when it came out. I really kind of like the idea of a deck without raids. I think it's such an interesting way to play, and I think that there's a lot of things in the deck that really kind of offers. Plus, I'd be lying if I said that when I got it, I pulled a couple of stars for this set, and it really just kind of swayed which one I wanted to play the most. We're going to go ahead and see the 0-cost Denji come down here. Our opponent's then going to go with a 0-cost Ray, followed by a 1-cost Ray. I'm going to go ahead and play the 1-cost REZE. It's going to be able to draw a discard here. And we will then play a 1-cost Denji onto the back row. And we're going to pass back to our opponent here. Our opponent's going to go ahead and move up the 0-cost Ray, play a 0 Mari, followed by a 2 Ray to give it 1,000. We're going to swing, hit an active trigger. And then we are going to go ahead and play another 1-cost REZE to be able to draw a discard. Pitch the Denji off of that. And go ahead and use the Denji effect to give himself energy generation. Play the Bomb Devil, be able to sideline a card on the board. We're going to sideline the 1-cost Denji to be able to flip it active, and then give it impact and damage too. And the 1-cost Denji will then be able to go for the top 4 for a REZE or Denji. We're going to use the effect to grab the color REZE, and then flip an AP active with the 5-2. This is, probably just going to then be having the color come down here to get rid of that Denji. We're going to actually go ahead and raid a 4-cost REZE to then be able to flip an AP active, and then we'll play the color REZE, be able to draw off the REZE too first. Then we'll play the REZE to be able to pop the Denji. Swing for a 5k impact damage too. Our opponent will go ahead and take that. It's going to be a get trigger and a special, so they're going to go ahead and special our raid REZE, and we will pass back to our opponent. Special early in life, when we committed a little bit to the board, it happens. I think in this instance, it kind of does maybe, it's going to come back to punish us a little bit. We're going to go ahead and see them move up a card, play the Ray, followed by a Misato on the back row, be able to play an AP flip for the 4-2 Asuka here to be able to sideline a card, and then sideline one on your opponent's field too. So sideline the Ray, draw a card off of that, and sideline the Bomb Devil. Plus, it reduces the next card with 2 or less by 1 AP. So then we're going to go ahead and see a free play of another 0-cost Misato swing for 4,000. We're going to hit a final trigger, a draw trigger, and a get trigger. All right, so that's a lot of hits to take very early on. We're going to hopefully be able to swing it back a little bit. Play the 3-cost REZE here to bring out a free card. Denji, draw discard with that. And next we are going to see a Bomb Devil raid come down here. So this is going to be the one that's able to pop a card and then pop a card, similar to the Asuka on their board. And we are going to use it to just actually use the effect without sidelining a card to just make something lose 1,000. We'll go ahead and sideline the Ray, and then we'll just use a boom on the Asuka. We're going to go ahead and swing for 4,000. Our opponent's going to take that, and another special. So, yikes, yeah, that's really hard to just deal with. Of the first 3 life, 2 specials. I don't want to make excuses for the deck or anything, but, sometimes that does happen with these games. We're going to go ahead and see them move up the Ray, play the Mari to draw discard, play a 4-cost Mari using the Misato effect to flip her active, and then play a 3-cost Asuka to be able to pop a card and draw 2. Alright, so this is going to be 3 swings coming in here. I guess we're going to see if something can save us out of life. Swing with the 4,000, hit another final, a Raid REZE, and then we're going to go ahead and make the Ray lose 1,000 and draw a card off of that. Alright, so it's not looking good on 1 life here, and we still have 4 to get through. And this is Yellow Ava. They do tend to have a pretty strong life, be yellow colors or a lot of get triggers, which I guess if he doesn't have the Misato up, doesn't really matter right now. We're going to go ahead and just go special the Mari to stop from the extra attacks on the next turn. And then we're just going to go ahead and raid a Bomb Devil to sideline a character on the board. Just going to try to maybe make it so his numbers are a little bit thinned out here. I don't know that it'll matter much just on the 1 life. We'll swing with the Bomb Devil. It's going to hit a get trigger, swing with the REZE, hit a get of the Misato. So that's the one that he really kind of needs in this deck, and this will probably, unfortunately, do it for this one. We're going to see them move up the 3-cost Asuka, play another Misato, and then play the Ray, use a Misato effect to flip the Ray active, use the Mari effect to buff the Asuka by 1,000, swing, it's get trigger. Alright, so, 2-1 against a deck that had, I guess, double special in life in the early on. I can't be too mad about that. I honestly was really happy with the way that the deck performed today. This is a deck that I do just think it's, really solid. I wonder how it'll do in our meta just because it's kind of a heavy removal deck, and we do tend to kind of prefer the rush decks in our metas, but I'm interested to see how this one's going to do against all the other ones. It felt pretty solid today. This is definitely a deck that took a while to fully learn, but I feel like once you do get it down, it really does start to feel good. But with that out of the way, we'll go ahead and get right into the pros and cons. Starting off with pro number 1, I would just go ahead and say that this deck is, like I said, heavy removal. This deck is just removal for so much. It just gets your 4 specials. You have your damage 2, which kind of works as a removal, and if not, then you take 2 life. It's a win-win. The 5-cost raid being a removal. Even in some instances, too, you can combo the 3-cost Denji, the Raid REZE, or the Raid Bomb Devil with the BP reduction. That can even be a removal, too, for smaller characters. The deck just has a ton of removal, and I think just in general, if you're playing against the right deck, it just kind of feels like you're blowing them out of the water. If you just have removal after removal, they just can't really build up a solid board. Pro number 2, and I would just say that this deck also just has a ton of free plays. With a couple of cards in your deck, you got the 3-cost REZE here that just brings out a free card for 1 AP. This is really helpful when you're just sidelining a bunch of your stuff. You get the 4-cost REZE to be able to then just get an AP active if you've sidelined a Denji. You get this 5-cost REZE, the 5-2, to be able to flip an AP active, so it's really just a 5-1 in most instances. The deck just can make a whole bunch of use out of your 3 APs, and it can turn them into what feels more along the lines of 5 AP if you have some of those solid ones, and you still get to play AP flippers too, so you can play even more. This deck just really does have these kind of turns where they just keep turboing out more and more cards, and it just keeps going faster and faster. So the ability to just have a bunch of free plays, it can really make it so if you feel like your board is kind of small, if you play your cards right and you sequence in them correctly, you can probably put out a board that will just end up kind of overwhelming your opponent on the next turn. It just really does have so many cool little scenarios like that you can just get a bunch of free stuff. So I do really like the ability to have a free play in this deck. And then I would say for the third pro, it's a very, very high skill ceiling on this deck. This deck is very much so not easy to play. It's not super beginner friendly, but I do think you put the reps towards it, you will get good with this deck. It's just a lot of proper resource management. That's just things you got to get down, things you kind of got to know with your hand, what it's capable of. And you can't just get too aggro with it, because I would also then say that the high skill ceiling is probably, I would say, the first con of it as well, is that this deck it has a high skill ceiling. It's good if you practice it a lot, but it is not a very easy one to pick up, and it's a strong deck, but again, I've seen people play this. The first week that this set was legal, we had a couple of people playing this at locals, or I'd played against a couple of people online with this deck. And it just, you can kind of tell when people haven't fully got the proper number of reps in with this deck, because it just sometimes seems like they don't fully know, how destructive the deck can be, or what the proper sequence of cards is going to be, which would also then say leads into my second con, and that is this deck can burn itself out if you are not careful with it. And even if you are careful with it, there's a couple of times where you might be in a situation where you kind of have to do it. This deck sidelines a bunch of your stuff, so it really is about managing it. I see people do it all the time, that they maybe overestimate what they can do, and then maybe don't take into account of like what the life triggers would be. I've had people put themselves down on like 1 to 2 energy in the late stages of the game just for like the heavy removal on a combo that might not even win them the game. It's just like this deck does have a very real potential to burn itself out of all of its resources. You can just kind of sideline too much of your stuff, and then you are stuck up a river with no paddle. It's a rough thing to do, but I do think, once again, that mostly just comes down to gameplay. I think that if you really do get this deck down and you put in plenty of rounds with this, you won't have the issue of burning out with it anymore. I just think that this deck does have that potential, so it's always something to be aware of when you're sidelining your stuff for the effects. I just say make sure that that's like something that you do. It's just got like a couple of those hands where you can really burn yourself out, so just make sure that you are always keeping track of what you can do, and then also maybe what your next turn is going to look like. And then for the final con, again, I feel like with these Chainsaw Man decks, they are all pretty solid decks, so coming up with cons with them sometimes, it can be a little bit tricky. But I would say that this deck does rely a decent amount on your 2-card combos. This deck does play, kind of half Denji, half REZE, and a lot of the times you really do want to see kind of a good split of them. It doesn't need to be a 50-50 one, because I think you kind of want to see more of your REZEs anyways. But I have had a couple of hands before where you just see only Denjis, or you just see only REZEs, and that can then just make it so your gameplay can be a little bit awkward. If you don't have your Denjis on the board, you won't always get your full usage out of this card to be able to then give it the damage 2 every turn. There's other cards too, like this 4 cost, that you won't be able to then get your AP active if you wanted to do an extra play with that. So the ability that you kind of need to be able to find both of your like Denjis and your REZEs, it can just sometimes come up. It doesn't always, because I do think that this deck does have a fair amount of ways to search. I mean, you have the 3-cost Denji, who he can just grab any character, or you have this 1-cost Denji that when he's sidelined, once again, he can just grab a character that's REZE or Denji. So they do have ways to get themselves out, and it just like, again, you need to sometimes see it, and it does have these hands that feel a little bit awkward if you see too many of one or not the other. But I think, again, this deck is all around very solid. I think this is probably one of the ones that we're going to see really start to pop off in our meta. Again, I don't really know how this removal kind of strategy will play into our meta when we have stuff like Sakamoto Days and the solo leveling set with Shadow Army. But I do think that this will be an interesting newcomer for the meta, and definitely something that you need to be prepared for if you're planning on going to a regional, because this will definitely be a deck that people are going to try out a lot. As with all these Chainsaw Man decks are, I really think that any one of these could be brought to a regional, and if you are not properly prepared for it, they can definitely sneak out games against you, some more than others, but I just think that this is a deck that you will definitely start to see at the top tables, so be prepared for it, because the heavy removal, it can get you. It can totally clear out your boards and just swing with a bunch of damage 2s. And if you don't necessarily play the right cards, or maybe you go a little bit too committed onto your turns, play too many cards for them to sideline, it can then feel pretty bad. This is a deck that it's very strong. I would say that this is probably the one I think has the most potential out of Chainsaw Man, but that's to say again that I think that all 4 of the decks do have some levels of potential to different degrees, but I am interested to see. So I guess we have a regional coming up, I believe, 2 weekends from the time of recording this now. So I'll see. Maybe I'll be right. Maybe I'll be wrong. But we'll see in that time. And anyways, that's going to do it for today. This is going to be the probably end of the Chainsaw Man videos. I could potentially do one again on the Hayakawa family, the red Aki Power Denji deck. If anybody wants to see that, just let me know, and I will whip up a deck profile for it, and we'll try to get one out. But otherwise, this was the 4 decks for Chainsaw Man. Just let me know down below which one your favorite was, which one are you most excited to play, which one maybe are you planning to take to a rare battle, or maybe a regional too. But I've had so much fun doing this. These decks are all so much fun, and I really do enjoy being able to showcase what they can do, a little bit of all their strength. Obviously, I would say with REZE, I like to think I'm pretty solid at this, but I do know that this deck is very complicated, so, how I played it today might not be obviously the best power that it can be played to, so definitely go and experiment with this deck for yourself. But yeah, now we're going to be moving on to the Inuyasha list, so be sure to be on the lookout for those. Those should start coming out maybe later on this week, and then they'll slowly trickle out. And then you'll see me again probably for REZE 0 with the deck list for that. That's going to be the set that I'm going to go into, so be sure to be on the lookout for all of our new stuff coming out. We're going to try to have more deck discussions, and then maybe we're going to try some different content too, see what else we can kind of experiment with. Just let us know down below maybe what you might like to see. And just as always, be sure to like and subscribe and comment for just anything that you might want to see from the channel. I mean, we're always taking ideas for new things that people might like to see. As always, this has been Snoplar with Team Legends, and until the next time, have a good one.